All right, it's 6:30, so we will now open the Board of Selectmen and Board of Health meeting for December 15th, 2021. Gene Canty called me a little while ago and said he's too sick to join us tonight, so we hope he feels better soon, but he won't be on the Zoom call tonight. The first item on the agenda is a coronavirus update and vaccine clinics. I see Deb is on the phone. Do you want to give us an update there?
Sure. So today, for the month of December, we had a total of 14 new cases of COVID. The testing data was just released today for the past 2 weeks. From November 28th to 12/11, we had 577 people tested and 25 were positive. When I compare that to our neighboring communities, Swampscott had 2,656 people tested with 133 positive. Lynn had 14,787 people tested with 1,027 people positive. So that's just a little comparison to show how we're doing with our neighboring communities. As far as the vaccines go, we have the latest data for vaccines is we have 93% of our 12 to 15-year-olds have had one dose, and 87% are fully vaccinated from 12 to 15. From 16 to 19, we have greater than 95% vaccinated. Now, for the 5 to 11 group, which is our latest group to come on board, we have 166 residents in that age category. 92 of them have had one dose and 39 are now fully vaccinated. So that gives us 55% of that age group has had one dose, which, you know, it's relatively new, the vaccine for that group. So many of them will be getting their second dose this week or next week at the clinic that will be held on the 21st. So I think those are great numbers considering, you know, how new that is for that group. The other thing about the clinic, I'm sure everyone's aware that on tomorrow night, Thursday, from 4 to 6, we'll be having a booster clinic at the town hall for Nahant residents and their spouse, their family members, and employees to receive their booster clinics, 18 and older. The other thing I do want to mention, we are working with Lynn City Hall every Monday and Friday, and their clinics are only for Lynn and Nahant residents. And they have been extremely well attended. And I have seen many Nahant residents show up at those clinics as well. So I think, I think it's a great thing that Lynn is, helping us out this week, bringing the vaccines to town hall for us, for the residents that haven't made it over there yet. And earlier today, we had 158 people already registered. That will probably go up a little bit by tomorrow. It's important to know that if you register online, you will come into the clinic and it will be a much faster throughput than if you show up as a walk-in, where you'll have to do all that registration. And if you have registered, you're guaranteed a vaccine as well. So I think that's pretty much all that I have right now as far as COVID is concerned.
Deb, one quick question. The clinic for the school age kids, the 5 to 11-year-olds,
right?
Might there be some of them that are receiving their first dose? You mentioned
Right.
Just for clarification, is it only second doses?
No. So
Okay.
anybody in that age group, and I think I met with the school yesterday, they're going to be sending out messages for 5 to 18-year-olds. Anybody can show up to that clinic. If you get your first dose there, and it will be Pfizer because that's the only approved vaccine right now for the kids, you will have to make your appointment 3 weeks later somewhere else to get the second vaccine.
I see, yeah.
So that's perfectly fine, and the other thing to remember too, it doesn't have to be exactly 3 weeks later. It has to be a minimum of 3 weeks. So say you come to that clinic next week and you can't get an appointment for 4 weeks, or, that's perfectly fine. It just can't be, like I said, before the 21 days with Pfizer. So we would encourage anybody in that age group who hasn't had even their first vaccine to show up.
Yep. All right, that's good. It seems like obviously the counts are going up really everywhere across the country. But at least we're in the hunt, we're doing well on the vaccination rates. So that's all we can do, really. Be careful.
Right.
Deb, did you mention I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you mention the numbers on the 18-year-olds and under on vaccination rates?
I did.
Okay, sorry, I missed it.
They're very high.
So they're very high. No, they're very high. So yes, I said 12 to 15, 87% are fully vaccinated, 16 to 19, greater than 95%, 20 to 29, 87%. And of course, the people 50 to 64 were 100%, and 65 to 74 were 100%. Those are numbers are, but having said that, the vaccines that people received back, last January, February, March, when we first started giving the vaccines, they've reached their 6 months. So we're seeing that just like the flu vaccine now, it seems like our COVID vaccines really only have a 6-month effective period. So yes, I'm really happy that our vaccine rates are great. I don't have any data yet for booster rates. So that's, right now, that's what's really important to get everybody so get their booster. So now our clinics are just as busy as they were last year at this time, except, we're not giving first and second doses, we're giving boosters now.
Yeah, but I got a quick question. I think in our last meeting, and that was really prior to the new variant coming out, that if the students at the elementary school reached the 80% vaccination rate, they could go up unmasked. Has that changed?
I haven't heard that changed yet, Mark, but there was a memo that came out just today that was forwarded to me about from a pediatrician's office. Many people use the Peabody Pediatrics and the Salem Pediatric Group, they call PAGs, that they're going to actually stop doing COVID testing in their offices because they're getting a lot of false positives in the testing that they're doing. And they're not sure right now how that's correlating to the new virus. So that just came out today, and I'm not exactly sure where that's going to end up. Our school beginning Monday, the 20th, so they have had the test and stay program in place, but beginning Monday, they're going to start doing the pool testing, where, many of the other schools across the states are already doing this, which is actually great because the pool testing is a PCR test. It's not an antigen test. And 10 of the students will be in a cohort, and they'll all be swabbed, and the swabs will all go into one test tube and sent out to the state for PCR testing. If everybody's negative, there'll be no report. If one person in that group is positive, it'll come back as a PCR positive, and then those 10 in the cohort will have a rapid test in school so that we'll be able to identify in real time if there's who the positive case might be. So there's a lot, you know, the numbers, you're right, the numbers are going up. The numbers in our young kids are going up. Last year, you know, this time last year, we were just starting to vaccinate the nursing homes and the 75 and older population. And, you know, most of them, I know the Jasmine, they've all had their boosters already. So they've been doing a great job over there. We haven't had any breakthrough cases at all. But the school now and the younger kids, we're starting to see those that have not yet been vaccinated with positive cases.
Right, thanks a lot, Deb. I see John Coulon's on the line. Actually, John, little off topic, but I saw on social media that you sent a letter out about rat populations and so on. And I wonder if you could just take a minute. I hope I'm not catching you off guard here, but provide a little background on that so people understand the letter. And
all right. We received a complaint of rat activity in that particular neighborhood, and I walked the neighborhood. I talked to several residents, current and former, and I observed the dense housing in that neighborhood compared to the rest of the town. And I determined that it would be worth our effort to send a letter querying the owners and residents of those properties identified by bordering streets of Pearl, Castle, and Relay Yard to assess their properties and to contact me if they wanted me to stop by and assist them in assessing their properties. I also encourage them to contact their own state licensed pest control operator for a written report from someone who specializes in that. And we've had about half a dozen people get back to me, and I have continued to walk and drive the neighborhood during daylight and nighttime hours, looking for evidence of activity or harborage, and it will be an ongoing effort, and something we might try elsewhere in town. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but thanks for staying on top of that stuff. I know, of course, it's always alarming to see rats in your yard or in your house, and I know, you know, we were enthusiastic bird feeders, you know, over the years, and last winter, for the first time ever, we saw rats in the yard, and so unfortunately for the birds, we're not putting seed out anymore because we don't want the unwelcome guests. But you know, it's always been somewhat of an issue in Nahant. But thanks for you know, helping the residents with that concern.
Sure. May I tag on to Deb's report?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of sidetracked you there.
So with regard to COVID-19, the directors and agents and I on the North Shore communicate frequently, and Nahant's numbers are proportional to our nearby communities, and each Board of Health and mayor's offices and town administrators, they are listening to the citizens and looking at the numbers and looking to see what they can do to stem the tide of the numbers that they have. And we've seen the age group that Deb mentioned that is quite high, that being 18 and under. In a couple of communities, that number or that group is nearly double the numbers in the other groups. So it just brings home statistically the importance of the vaccine and the behavior that saw our numbers reverse themselves last winter. And we cannot emphasize it enough that people use what worked in the past, and we need to take a look at reversing these numbers. Thanks.
Thanks, John. If that's all, I guess I'll say one more thing on the COVID. So all the information about the upcoming vaccine clinics, both in Nahant and in Lynn, are on the nahant.org website, I believe. And if there's nothing more on the COVID, we'll move on to opening comments. The 25th annual Christmas parade is Saturday, December 18th, 2021, starting from Cliff Street at 6 p.m. and going town-wide. Winter parking ban, all vehicles must be parked off the street during the hours of 12 midnight to 6 a.m. from December 21st through March 20th. You can contact the Nahant Police Station for a winter parking pass if needed. Nahant Town Hall will be closed Friday, December 24th and Friday, December 31st in observance of Christmas and New Year's holidays. There will be no trash or recycling pickup delays the week of Christmas or New Year's. Please put your trash and recycling out for curbside pickup on the day you normally would. The Freezing for a Reason Ocean Plunge is Saturday, January 1st, 2022 at Short Beach, starting at 11 a.m. Mark, do you have any other opening comments you'd like to share?
I just want to know what the reason is with reason. Is there a reason?
There is a reason. It's a charity, and now I forget what the charity is. It's a fundraiser for charity in Lynn, maybe a person in Lynn, but I forget. Does any you have to remember?
Good cause in any event, right?
Yeah. It is. So that's the reason for freezing, but I don't remember specifically.
I have comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. No other comments? I don't have any more. So moving on to new business. We have
There was the Mr. Chairman, there was the snowplow drivers too.
oh, okay. It's not on my cheat sheet here, but
Oh, sorry.
we're still looking for snowplow drivers, and I don't have the specifics on pay or anything if that's in the.
No, just contact the town hall if you're interested to plow for the town, and reach out to Mary Lowe, and she'll give you all the information regarding rates and what insurance requirements are required. And if you're interested, please give us a call.
Sounds good. Thanks. All right, then, new business. We have an appointment on the Council of Aging.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the appointment of Mary Minor as the Council on Aging Director effective January 18th, 2022.
Seconded. Discussion. Linda Peterson is retiring as planned. She's delayed her retirement for 6 months or so while we search for an acceptable candidate, and Mary Minor has moved to the top of the list here. So, Tony, I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
Yeah, I would, we had the application out there for some time and, or the job posting out there for some time, and myself and Linda Peterson and members of the Council on Aging board interviewed those candidates. We had two candidates and both were excellent. Mary, stood out a little bit more because of her, she's got a tremendous amount of experience with the Department of Transitional Assistance. So she brings a great, professional experience to the position that it's going to be helpful to those who use the Council on Aging. Really, really nice, really energetic, very excited to get started. And it was a unanimous decision amongst me and Linda and the members of the Council on Aging board who took part in that process. So we're excited to have her, and she will be at the Council on Aging from now until her start date, from random days here and there, volunteering to get some training under her belt while Linda's still with us. So stop in and meet her.
Sounds good. Well, I'll make a point of getting down there and meeting her. I saw her resume. That looks great. And I know you've spoken highly of her as well, Tony. So, and I know we've thanked Linda in the past, but I'm sure, well, thanks once again. And I'm sure all those that participate in the Council of Aging will miss Linda for sure. So
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure, Mr. Chairman. Mary will have big shoes to fill here, for sure. Linda has certainly brought the council into new heights. I remember appointing her many years ago, and she has just transformed that agency, in my opinion. And she'll be missed, but I'm hopeful that Mary will carry on the tradition. And Tony, if you could let us know if there's any event or something for Linda that we could all attend.
Yep. Her last day, I believe, is going to be January 14th. So we'll probably have a little lunch of some sort, and I'll let you guys know what the final, date of that is, and invite you to join us.
Thank you.
is there any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. Next item is to declare the ocean rescue vehicle as surplus equipment.
Okay. I move to declare the 1999 Freightliner MT-45, the former ocean rescue vehicle, as surplus equipment, and that the equipment be placed on municipal bid for auction per chapter, Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, procurement law.
Seconded. Any discussion? Let's see, I think we got a new vehicle at the last town meeting, right?
Actually, a couple, I don't know, falls ago, we had an article that we ended up not needing anymore for the boat. And then and not only just the boat, but for the ocean rescue truck that pulls the boat. And we were able to acquire a National Grid compressor truck through surplus for $1. And so it's been repainted, it's been outfitted, it looks great. It sits inside the tent out back, the tent garage out back. So, we definitely made, through the fire department, through Chief Antrim, a ton of effort to, think creatively about how to solve that problem. We're able to do it, rather cheap, and we got a great vehicle out of it. So this one will surplus. It's not worth keeping.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. Any other discussion? Hearing seeing none, roll call vote.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. Next is to declare the former ocean rescue boat surplus equipment.
I move to declare the 2008 Zodiac Futura MK3 14-foot 9-inch LOA, the former ocean rescue boat as surplus equipment, and that the equipment be placed on the municipal bid for auction per chapter 30B of the procurement law.
Seconded. Discussion. I know this boat had some structural problems a couple of years back, and I believe the Angulo family donated another boat to replace this and making this surplus. I think that's correct. I don't know if you had anything to add, Mark or Tony?
That's correct. And what we're actually going to be doing is the old engine on this old boat, the old outboard, is actually a couple years newer than the outboard that came with the new donated boat. So we're actually going to be, we've already looked into trading the two outboards plus the trailer of the old boat in to put towards a new outboard for the new boat. So again, you know, thinking creatively to get a good value purchase, piece of safety equipment, you know, fairly cheap for the town.
Yep, sounds good. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. Approve annual liquor licenses.
I move that the Nahant Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following liquor licenses renewal applications for 2022 to be approved by the ABCC. Nahant Country Club, 208 Nahant Road, club license, all alcoholic beverages. Nahant Knights of Columbus Building Association, Inc., 17 Relay Yard, club license, all alcoholic beverages. R&B Management LLC, 1 Willow Road, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages. Atlantic Functions, Inc., DBA Ocean View, 0 Willow Road, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverage. R&C Convenience Store, Inc., DBA Seaside Variety, 141 Nahant Road, package store license, all alcoholic beverage. Tides at Nahant, Inc., 2B Wilson Road, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages. And further, that the licenses of the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all the inspections and payment of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town of Nahant.
Seconded. Discussion. So these are all of these are repeats of last year. There's no new licenses. No licenses have dropped off. My only question is, does the Bayside not have a liquor license?
We did it last Board of Selectmen meeting, remember? Because we switched hands.
Right.
So we did that one already.
All right.
And we also did the meeting before that, we did the country club.
Yeah. So the country club's on here today as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Two Board of Selectmen meetings ago, we approved the transfer of the liquor license to the country club.
Yeah. And the
And
name.
now it's being renewed. Yep.
Yep. Okay. That's all I had for discussion. Do you have anything, Mark?
No, I just, I remember the time when the Board of Selectmen used to have to go visit all of these sites prior to issuing the licenses, to make sure that the liquor wasn't watered down.
Yeah. Well, that could still happen.
Well, yeah, this is subject to approval of all inspections, so.
There you go. All right. Roll call vote.
Not telling that I.
Josh Antrim, aye. Approve the annual entertainment licenses.
I move that the Nahant Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following entertainment licenses for 2022 for the following establishments. Knights of Columbus, 17 relay yard, 5 TVs, 5 musicians, DJ, pool table, and jukebox. Nahant Country Club, 280 Nahant Road, TV, live music, DJ. Atlantic Functions, Inc., DBA, Ocean View, 0 Willow Road, live music, DJ. R&B Management, LLC, 1 Willow Road, live music, DJ, jukebox, karaoke. Tides at Nahant, 2B Wilson Road, 10 TVs, 2 amusement devices, live music, karaoke. Bayside Function Corp. DBA, the Bayside 1 Southwick Ave, jukebox, 7-piece orchestra, non-amplified. And further, that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payments of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town of Nahant.
Seconded. Any discussion? I assume that karaoke, is it per your request, Mark? Karaoke machines? Never mind. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Approve annual common victular licenses.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the common victular licenses as stands alone or in connection with a liquor license for the year 2022 for the following establishments. Atlantic Functions, Inc., DBA, Ocean View, 0 Willow Road, Tides at Nahant, 2B Wilson Road, Nahant Country Club, 280 Nahant Road, R&B Management, LLC, 1 Willow Road, Nahant Knights of Columbus Building Association, DBA, Nahant Knights of Columbus, 17 Relay Yard, Seaside Variety, 141 Nahant Road, Seaside Pizza, 149 Nahant Road, Nahant Preservation Trust, Nahant Life Saving Station, 96 Nahant Road, and further that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payments of all outstanding fines and payments to the town of Nahant.
Seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Approve annual used car dealer license.
I move that the Nahant Board of Selectmen vote to approve the used car dealer licenses class 2 for calendar year 2022 for George Mastalos, DBA Seaside Auto, Francis Baville, DBA Nahant Garage, and further that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payments of all outstanding fees, fines, and payments to the town of Nahant.
Seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Lobster trap storage leases.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to extend the current lobster trap storage license leases to August 31st, 2022.
Seconded. So this date is changed from its usual January 1st date. And Tony, do you want to provide some background on that?
Yeah, before we renew the terms of before we renew these leases, we make an effort to make sure that the lease area, the lobster storage trap area is clean and adhering to the terms of the lease. But end of December is always really tough to do so. So the idea here is we spoke with the lobstermen and tried to figure out a better time to be able to provide them help from the town to, clean their space down at the compost area. So usually the current lease states that from July 15th to September 1, they shall not have more than 100 traps in their space, because the traps are in the water. There's more, it's a little bit more open and easier to clean. So by moving this to August 31st, it gives us that opportunity to get in there, you know, if any vegetation needs to be trimmed back, provide a dumpster if necessary. It's just better all around, you know, for them and for us. The extension, this 8-month extension, comes at no cost to them. We are, well, the cost of the lease will go up in September. And I've also offered, we're going to pilot this year, allowing the lobstermen to store their prams in their lease space over the winter time while boat storage is occurring at the wharf parking lot, because they can be pose a risk to the stands for those boats, and they also, in a heavy snow, it can get really tight in there and tough to maneuver with the plows. So we're going to pilot that this year, see how it works, and should it work well, we'll add that to the terms of the lease in September.
Do the prams have to be out of there by a certain date? Or no?
My proposed language would be that the prams move to the lobster trap storage area while boats are stored on the wharf parking lot.
So between October 1 and May 15th.
Right. It would follow that schedule.
And one pram per lot, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay.
Most of the lobstermen don't keep their prams or skiffs at the wharf over the winter time, but some are limited in space in their yards.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think, you know, I'm offering it to them as an option this year to try it out. You know, if I was them, I'd rather have it at the compost area too, because, you know, if they're covered in snow, you don't want them to get hit by a plow either. So,
Mhm.
you know, hopefully that works out well.
Yeah, well, I know you and I have talked about this. I think the date change makes a lot of sense. It's a lot easier to make sure the area is cleaned out when there are far fewer traps on the site. So sounds like a good change to me. Mark, did you have any?
Yeah, I would agree. I agree, Mr. Chairman. It's a great change. I also like the idea of allowing them to store their prams there. You know, sometimes in the past they pull them up in Marjoram Park and causes a problem with the grass and that type of stuff sometimes. So I think this is a good opportunity to do that. While we're on the compost area too, I just take this opportunity to tell Tony, and I said it before, that under your leadership, the place looks great down there. And I want to thank Gennaro and Julio and his family for all the work that they've done down there. I saw them down there today, in fact, doing some more cleanup and that type of stuff. So it looks fantastic down there.
Yes, thank you. And you brought up a part about Marjoram Park and protecting the grass. G&J also donated granite blocks to the town to line the corner of Marjoram Park that meets the parking lot where there is no curb, and those were installed today too. So provide some seating. It also provide, you know, some seating for people enjoying the park, and then it's also, you know, provide some protection of, you know, vehicles driving up onto the grass.
I saw that.
So we thank them for that too.
Sounds good. Roll call vote.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. Moving on to new business. First item on the new business agenda is the status of the Nahant Dory Club CPC funded Davit. I see we have Eric Curtin and Sandy Burton on the phone. Just a little background. This is a town meeting approved CPC grant. And the Dory Club just wanted to bring the town up to speed about this project before proceeding to hiring an engineer to do the detailed design for this davit. So I don't know if Sandy or Eric is going to talk through the PowerPoint that was sent to Tony earlier.
Oh, sorry, stand by. Let me grab that.
Josh, this is Eric. I can talk through it as it comes up.
All right, sounds good. So while Tony looks for that, I know Eric and Sandy have been working with Wharfinger Rob Tiblo on some criteria for this this davit, and the two of the key criteria were that it not take up any space on, let's call it, the deck of the wharf, and that it not protrude above that plane, I think, on a permanent basis. Hopefully I have that criteria correct, but so as Eric and Sandy have worked through the conceptual design iterations, that is sort of a primary design goal, design criteria that they've worked to.
Tony, do you want Eric to pull that up for you?
I have it. I was just trying to get it full screen because it's opening up in my browser. I can present it this way. It's just not full screen, or I can provide share screen ability to Eric. you have
Whatever's
it?
better for you, Tony.
Okay, let me see here. Let's see if I can provide you. Well, I don't know how to do that. Let me do this. All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that works. So Josh introduced the subject pretty well. If you can hold right there, Tony, that's great. The Dory Club in the spring of 2020 installed new floats and a new gangway system. The old floats had kind of deteriorated to the point where they needed to be replaced. We did that at a cost of about $44,000. Those floats are used extensively in the summer by Dory Club members. They're also used extensively by the Nahant sailing program for their support boats on a day-to-day basis, also for mooring access. And so it's kind of a shared resource in many ways. And as you all know, that location is subject to a pretty significant ocean swell at times during the summer, and certainly as we get into the fall. And that ocean swell causes both wear and tear on the system and at times damage. We've had the system damaged at least once since we installed the new float. And so our thought was to try to install a system that separated the two elements, the float and the gangway, during times when a swell existed. Also to be able to hoist the gangway in the wintertime to give it a better location to be stored. We did request a grant at the a Cpa grant at the town meeting, and that was authorized. I don't really know how much of that grant would get utilized because we're early in the design process, and it's unclear what the cost of this would be at this point. But what we did is we began immediately after that grant authorization working with Rob Tibbo to develop a design criteria. Josh has briefed you on a bit of that criteria. We also worked with him through the summer as we were iterating through designs that we were doing, and asked him to review those designs so that we're sure that what we do is something that he approves of. And then what our thought is, and what we'd like to do, is we have a conceptual design to share with you tonight. And we're asking if we can get an approval of the conceptual design before proceeding with the costly part of the process, which is the engineering design and getting stamped and signed construction drawings. We'd like to be proceeding knowing that this meets with the town's approval. We would, of course, return to the selectmen to seek a final approval once the construction documents are in place and ready to be used. We'd also return if the engineering process brings up any significant change to the design that we're thinking about. So the image that you're on right now, again, is just a photograph of the float system. And I've used this view primarily to illustrate what we're thinking about. So as we iterate through the design, I'll be coming back kind of to this view, and hopefully it's understandable. So we could go to the next slide. So hopefully you get a sense we're in the same place, and you can see a red circle that highlights an area where the support system would be stored in the summertime. And this is the summer configuration. The support system for the davit and the support system for the gangway would slide under the concrete portion of the wharf. We can go to the next slide. I'll take you under the wharf. And what you can see are, in blue, 3 support collars placed at either side and in the middle of the wharf. In green, what we have been calling the primary support tube, it would slide in and out of the support collars. And in red, a secondary support tube, which would also slide in and out. The colors, of course, are just for the illustration. This would all be in galvanized steel, so it would be gray and pretty much imperceptible under the wharf in the summertime. We could go to the next slide. So I've got you back in this summer here, and we're thinking that we'd like to deploy our hoist system either for a storm or potentially for in the fall to reposition the gangway. We go to the next slide. The tubes would slide out just slightly, and we would affix an aluminum davit system by setting it on the top of the green tube and bolting it on, and a block and tackle, or potentially some kind of electric hoist device, depending on what the need is for power. We can go to the next slide. You can see just a zoomed out view of that davit attached to the primary support. We would then slide out the green tube. Next slide, please. So that the davit itself is very close to the gangway, and we would hoist the gangway. Next slide. And as the gangway gets up to a level position, the red tube would then slide out and support the gangway. Once the gangway is supported with the red tube, then we could disassemble the davit system that's been attached to the top of the green tube. You could go to the next slide and you'll see that. And so we've now got the davit removed, and we're in what we consider to be the storm condition or the winter condition, where the gangway is supported by this system that comes out from underneath the deck. It would be strapped down, and at the far right of the image, you can see a temporary gate that would be placed to prevent people from straying out onto the gangway. If you go to the next slide, I'll take you underneath the gangway, and you'll get a little bit better sense of the device itself in its deployed position. You also see a little bit better image of what we're thinking about in terms of a gate would have to be placed just to prevent the attractive nuisance of folks going out onto the gangway when it's in this storm condition or winter condition. Obviously, the exact opposite happens springtime or as the storm is over. Last slide is just a compilation of 3 images that kind of walk you through the whole thing or give you a sense of the whole thing. The summer position as you go clockwise, hoist preparation, hoisting, and then winter position around further clockwise. With that, questions or comments, and this is where we are presently, and we'd just like to get a sense of whether there's the appetite to proceed with this or not.
Mr. Chairman, a few questions, if I could. Thank you, Eric. Great presentation. So this is, I take it then we're not taking the the gangway out at all during the winter. We're going to leave it in for the entire winter, correct?
Our preference would be to leave it in that horizontal position that's illustrated during the winter, primarily because it's a relatively heavy element, and just the act of removing and reinstalling, we feel that sooner or later someone's going to get hurt, and this is a much safer thing for us to do if we can leave it stored in that location.
I would agree with you. It looks like a good system. I'd like to see the details once we get to the engineering aspect of it. But I understand then the supports arm that comes out will be bolted to the bottom of the gangway. I only mention this because I am somewhat concerned that there are some crazy storms where you will get splash over. So will the engineering take that into effect? The splashing underneath the gangway?
So what we would do is use a typical crank strap, like you put lumber on top of your automobile with, and wrap it around the gangway and essentially attach the gangway to the support bar for storm conditions so that it could not bounce up and down.
Okay. I agree with the concept, Eric. At this point, I look forward to looking at some of the engineering details as you develop them.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I guess, I think it's a nice, simple design and visually, aesthetically very unobtrusive. So I like it. And thanks to the Dory Club for all the support they provide for the Nahant sailing program. Nahant sailing program offers instruction to over 80 kids, I think, this past summer, and over 25 adults. And as you mentioned, Eric, the Dory Club has allowed the sailing program to use the Dory Club facilities to float in the ramp, and Monday through Friday, really all day, and Thursday evenings for the adult lessons. So that's in part why town meeting voted to appropriate a fraction of the cost to the Dory Club for this Davit. So I think that's great. The Nahant sailing program, I think, is a wonderful program. It offers instruction to all these people at a pretty small fraction of what you can really get anywhere else. So thanks to the Dory Club for support of the public Nahant sailing program.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment?
Yes, please.
So first, I'd like to compliment, the concept. I think, I know you guys have spoken with the harbor master, and it looks like you've taken his, comments in consideration. Some of those were, creating something that doesn't change the look or feel of the wharf and the way that it is. So your concept, of hiding the bar, under the wharf when it's not in use, and not having a permanently installed davit system, I think accomplishes that. So I think you did a good job with that. I think, the engineering is obviously going to have some impact on which way this ends up finally being designed. I think off the top of my head, I'm a little concerned about the slidability, I guess would be the terminology of that bar system years down the road, because the corrosion that occurs underneath the wharf is, tremendous. So I don't know how that would work, but I'm sure, the right engineer could create something that works and still accomplishes the concept that you have in place. Personally,
Yes.
I like the idea of being able to pull that up in a storm-like situation. It releases tension, on the wharf and on the float when you're having really big swells in the shoulder seasons. The gangway itself, is an expensive piece of equipment, and for me, I don't know if I would want it dangling over the ocean all winter long. But I understand where you guys are going from, and I understand it's kind of one or the other, pulling it out and the dangers that you encounter that versus the risk of leaving it out over the ocean over the winter time. So interested to see how this progresses, and conceptually I could say I get where you're going, and it looks like you've taken a lot of the harbor master's comments into consideration.
Thanks, Tony. Rob is at the meeting here tonight, if you'd like to hear from him. In terms of suspending those elements during the winter, I can tell you that I'm on the board of directors at the Cottage Park Yacht Club in Winthrop, and we do exactly that with 3 out of our 4 gangways all winter long. They are suspended on very similar systems to this, strapped down with a crank strap. It's been about 5 years now that we've been doing that, and primarily to avoid the dangers, to the membership of pulling those gangways every year and putting them back on, because sooner or later, someone's going to get hurt if we keep doing it. But I do know Rob is on, and if you'd like to hear from him, I think he's
Sure.
willing to speak tonight.
Sure. I don't see him.
Am I
though.
not muted?
Oh,
He's-
there you are.
He's orange.
You're in orange
Can you hear me?
square. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
let me say that everyone has been extremely cooperative in trying to meet the challenge here of keeping this as invisible as possible. It won't be in the way as far as the use of the deck above. I think we're on the right track here, and I look forward to seeing how it develops further out.
Thanks, Rob. I'll point out that, of course, this design does not mandate that the ramp stay there in the winter. It allows it to stay there in the winter, and as importantly, or more importantly, allows us to quickly get the ramp out of the way when a storm is coming. As Eric said, well, we had the previous ramp was damaged in a October or late September storm. The Rotary Club bought a new ramp, installed that in the spring of 2020, I guess, and then in the fall of 2020, that got damaged in a storm. So sort of up the ante on being able to get this ramp out of the way when a storm is en route. So like I said, accomplishes the goal of being able to get the ramp out of the harm's way when a storm is coming, and allows at least the possibility of storing for the winter. And that can change, if circumstances show that is inadequate in some way or another. But more to come when the engineering detailed design is finalized, but I think the Dory Club wanted to get a blessing that, you know, good to go to spend the money to hire an engineer before proceeding. So I'm happy with the design, moving on from the conceptual to detailed design phase. Sounds like Rob and Tony and Mark are as well. Are we in agreement there?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't think we need a vote, but thanks, Eric, for the presentation, and looks good to proceed.
Excellent. My pleasure. And thank you all.
Next item is a review of the town meeting articles. We had previously gone through Articles 1 through 20, skipping the ones that didn't require review, and Article 21 was the CPC, so there's a bunch of sub-articles there. We'll get to those, let's say in January, but tonight we can go through Articles 22 through whatever the last one was, 43 or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know if you have those available to share on the screen or whether that would help folks, Tony.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so Article 22 was authorizing the Board of Selectmen to put a conservation restriction on portions of East Point via eminent domain. The Board of Selectmen did vote to proceed with that back in early September, and so that's in process. MWA borrowing, 200K at 0%. Can you talk us through this, Tony?
Sure. So we've been approved to go to the MWRA and borrow $200,000 through their zero interest loan program. We have not actually moved forward with borrowing anything yet. We are putting together, those projects now. Fox Hill Road is one of them. Winter Street is another one. Zach has a good list. And so Dan Coughlin, the town engineer, along with Vicky Masson, are working together to put together that, the scope of that work. And then we'll next be, applying to MWRA for the funding and hopefully be doing some of that work in the spring. That work, there's a couple different elements that would determine the priority of the water work that happens around town. One is, common problem issue pipes, stuff that breaks a lot over the winter time, underserved areas or fire hydrants, and other items that may be, in the same roadway as, other priority issues like sewer work. So if we were, for instance, replacing a sewer line on Nahant Road, and there seems to be some water work that needs to get done there too, we would try to, do both jobs same time. So you dig the street once instead of twice. So there's a couple different elements that, formalize that capital plan by priority. And we're going through that process now.
All right, and then Article 24 was the wastewater bylaw amendment. This relates to infiltration and inflow.
I believe all of our bylaws have been approved by the Attorney General's office at this point.
I think that's correct. I know Diane gave us an update at the last meeting of the status of all of those bylaw changes, and I didn't update this document. So, but I think
Mr. Chairman, I'll point out that the AG did cut out some of the tree bylaws that really have no impact on the intent of the vote that was passed at town meeting. But as Tony mentioned, we did pretty well with the other ones.
Yeah, Okay, so this one I think is approved by the.
Yes.
All right, and actually, Article 25, this was extending the firearms discharge from 300 yards offshore to 600 yards offshore, and at town meeting, this got deferred to the chief of police for study. And since then, we have changed chief of police, and so I've been meaning to inquire whether the new chief knows he's supposed to be studying this. I don't know if you know what the status of that is, Tony.
He knows, but he hasn't, we haven't made any progress on this at this point. It's still deferred. You know, we're entering duck hunting season after the new year. So I'm sure, you know, he'd be able to get some firsthand experience, you know, during this hunting season, looking at what issues, you know, might be of concern. And I'll connect with him, make sure that he's got that on his schedule for, you know, starting after the new year.
Yeah, we definitely want to get some kind of decision from him before we start to put together the warrant articles for 2022 town meeting. I know obviously the kite boarders are still out there, and the foil boarders are out there in the water, so we just want to make sure they stay safe and our laws are consistent with that. Article 26, snow removal on the sidewalks didn't pass. So moving on to 27, short-term rental excise tax.
This has been accepted. It's been accepted, and I believe it's being imposed. We have not received. Actually, I think we did receive our first payment from the state, but it was very minimal because the tax had just gone into place. So I don't have the dollar amount, but I believe that this is up and running.
Yeah, just to remind people, this is for a short-term rental. There's an excise tax that gets paid to the state, and then the state pays the town of Nahant, and there's no, let's call it, effort on the town's part to collect this tax. It's simply delivered to us, so bit of a no-brainer for us, and a revenue stream for Nahant that comes from, by and large, non-residents. So good choice by the town voters to vote this tax into law. Short-term rental bylaw advisory committee. I think we have some news on that a little bit later in this meeting, so you can go ahead.
I can do it now. We had 6 applicants for the 2 resident seats on this committee, and all 6 were super informed and ready to get involved. Unfortunately, I could only pick 2. Those 2 have been appointed and sworn in. That's Rob Thibault, our harbor master, who has a extensive professional background in property liability insurance world, and has you know, he's bringing that great experience to this committee to help us form, you know, these bylaws and rules and regulations. And Marie Hladakova as well, who has somewhat of a similar background, develops rules and policy, and brings a personal experience of renting homes through Airbnb. So all the other 4 have been informed, and all 6, even though 2 are appointed, plan to get involved in these committee meetings. As I said, both those members, resident members, have been sworn in. It's the building inspector, John Coulon, the public health inspector, and a member from the planning board. I believe Steve Viviano was appointed by the planning board to fill that seat. So those folks will be meeting after the new year.
And the purpose of this committee is to develop or to make recommendations for new bylaws related to short-term rentals.
Correct.
And there again, it would be very nice if they had their recommendations in advance of putting together the town warrant so that we can have something to vote on the next town meeting. Marijuana local tax. Let's see, that was voting to impose tax on marijuana sales, right?
Similar to short-term rental excise tax, it's a local option. It has been adopted, the state's been informed, but there is no revenue being generated because there are no marijuana establishments in the town.
Right. Article 30 is another bylaw change. I think that's approved by the AG. Is that right, Tim?
That's right. Yep, approved. All were approved, no problem. And they were posted and published like Diane did her job. So they're on the books.
Article 31, Veterans Tax Work Off Program. This is something that was already in place, right? Or am I thinking of the seniors?
You're thinking of seniors. The veteran, this is a similar program, but for veterans. It is, veterans are eligible as of August to get involved in the program. Our assessor Sheila Hamilton and veteran service officer John they've been working together on defining the elements of this program, but it is up and running and veterans have the ability to apply and potentially, if they fulfill a certain amount of hours, they can get up to $1,500 off of their property tax.
All right. Then the senior deferred property tax interest. Did that pass? I'm trying to remember. Gosh.
I think it did.
Okay. Sorry. Didn't do my homework. Yeah.
I believe it did.
Yeah. So, right. Yes. Now that I'm reading it. And this is just, this is a Massachusetts general law that we can adopt, right?
Right. It's part of the
Yeah, we have a range. The interest rate, the state allows the town to determine what that interest rate is for deferred property tax for eligible seniors. And the article for town meeting reduced the interest rate, I think from 4% down to 2% or something along that lines. And that passed at town meeting. So that's in place.
Okay. Yep. All right. Thanks for the reminder there. And Article 31 was to authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey, transfer, or sell a portion of land at the end of Antigua Way, which is related to Article 34. That passed. I think we're waiting for
33 and 34.
Yeah.
So Town on Land Study Committee needs to get together. The Board of Assessors are going to be appointing a new member. The Open Space Committee needs to appoint a member. Everyone else is still on, and as soon as those two members are appointed, the committee will meet and work on evaluating the value of the property that has been authorized to be discontinued and sold, and then they will provide a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen for what the value of that property is, and it will go through the Chapter 30B process.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we look forward to the recommendation from the Town Land Committee. The tree bylaws, Dan, what did you say the status of this one?
they majority of them passed. Some were struck down, but it's only because they they basically try to control part of the state responsibility over trees. And to be quite honest, it was more of a scrivener's error. They really weren't supposed to be there anyway. So I take partial complaint or blame for this. But the root and spirit of the bylaws and the main ones that were passed at town meeting are still on the books, no problem at all. The only ones that were struck were the ones that really were superfluous.
All right, so the ones that are allowed by the AG are on the books.
Yep.
Sounds good. And Article 36 was the parking violations, and this is a little confusing, but this is updating the Massachusetts general law to chapter 90, section 20A.5 to essentially make our parking violations consistent with or the law consistent with the parking violation fees that we've been using. All right, express that reasonably well, Dan.
We just updated the schedule of fines to reflect the more current rates. And we actually have a new book that's all set to go. And I checked it with Chief Furlong, and I think they're having no problem with it. So this was just bringing everything up to current levels. That's all.
Yep. And then 37, the chapter 90 highway funds.
We haven't used any of chapter 90 funds yet, except for we performed some traffic studies at Spring Road and at Willow and Wharf for some intersection design work, and then also to hire Stantec to do the sign audit and sidewalk audit, which we've submitted to chapter 90 for approval. It's been approved. The remaining amount of funds will be used in the spring for, annual paving work.
Can you remind us when the Stantec sign and sidewalk studies will begin and end?
So it hasn't begun yet. We just got approval from chapter 90 to expend the funds on them. We have a scope of work from Stantec with a schedule in it. And I believe I'm looking it up right now, but I believe their proposal is to be completed in just a few short months. I want to say 3 months, but let me double check. I actually sent the proposal, the scope, over to Mark to take a look, because I know he had hired Stantec in the past to do a similar audit for the sidewalks.
Yes.
Yeah,
Tony,
so they'll be done March 31st is the dated delivery completion date. So it would go from now for the next about 3 months.
All right, that sounds good. Related to that, I sent you an email maybe a week or so ago, Tony, with some thoughts on signs that we should try to make sure we dovetail into Stantec's sign.
Yes.
Some of that was related to the topic we discussed with members of SWIM at a meeting maybe a month or two ago about notifying folks about the idling law. No idling more than 5 minutes, I think it is. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know if you haven't been able to share that with Mark and Jean, could you forward that to them? I think I did not copy it.
he did. Tony forwarded it to me.
All right.
I think makes a lot of sense.
All right, great.
Yeah, I passed that on to Stantec
Oh,
to
great.
include in their recommendation, where would you, and in the best way possible, combine, mostly it's going to be parking signs whether it be limit or, you know, where you can park, where you can't park, and in those areas where you would include a no idling sign, you know, incorporated into the same sign.
Yep.
You know, the idea here is we don't want to have a ton of signs, but so what's the nicest way we can, you know, add that effort into this? And that's been included in their scope.
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, and all this sign stuff too, one of the big ones is obviously is the parking in the summer. And Tony, I think we need to probably have a discussion with town council regarding the wording of those signs. I know a lot of them say resident parking only. And I guess that could be true. I mean, a lot of people view the beach sticker as resident parking sticker, and I don't think it is. So I think we need to sort of resolve that somehow, some way. I don't think the town's ever voted on resident parking only. We do have beach stickers. I think what those signs refer to is people with those stickers on the windshield can park there. But I think we need to be clear on what that means.
Resident parking sticker required or something to that effect is your.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we don't have resident parking restrictions in the heart like other communities, like Salem, for example. I mean, we don't have that. We have restricted areas where we park, but I don't think we've ever voted in the town to have a resident parking only area.
I think only Wilson Road. Wilson Road may be the only area that I believe is resident parking only, not resident sticker, but resident parking only because of, you know, how close it is to Long Beach. And I think that was something that happened when, you know, the parking spaces were reduced on the causeway, and it was an effort for us to try to help with the residents down there. But other than that, I think you're right. I mean, but there are signs, even though it may not have been voted, there are signs around town that might say resident parking only, or, you know.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm saying, Tony, is that I can be a resident and not have a sticker and park there. So would I get a ticket? I'm a resident.
You would not get it. If you were under that sign, you would not get a ticket. Which makes it challenging
Right.
for the police officers, because
Exactly.
the non-resident car owner doesn't know, they're not running the plate of the resident car owner. And they see, you know, why does that car not have a ticket and I do? So it becomes an issue. But yeah, it's definitely something, you know, step one of this sign audit is to get out there and identify where our current signs are, what condition they're in, whether they're accurate or not, and then put together a plan of how to improve upon that. And part of that, part two, is going to be working with Dan and Chief of Police regarding the issue that you talked about.
And what the wording of those signs say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some signs don't say anything.
It's a mess.
You don't notice it. You become blind to some of that stuff over time. But once you start like actually looking at signs on poles, you'd be amazed at how many, you know, some signs. I think there's a sign up at East Point that still has the 617 area code on it.
Right. I mean, I guess what I'm getting to, Tony and Mr. Chairman, is, you know, we have, and I'm not taking a position on this. I just see it as a conflict. You know, during the summer months, we have the electronic sign out by the bank saying, no non-resident parking in the hut. Well, that's not true. Right? I mean, I have friends that don't live in the hut and park in front of my house, and there's no signs that prevent them from doing that. So, I mean, I just think there's some confusion there, and hopefully the sign audit, we can sort of resolve it a little.
Not only is it, even if it was true, it wouldn't really hold up, for in front of your house, the digital message board at the end of the causeway. But we do it to try to help with the issue of
I understand why the police do
the
it.
causeway,
And I
the
applaud.
causeway parking.
I understand why they do it, Tony, and and I don't object to it at all. But it's, you can have friends that coming into town and say, well, where am I going to park? I'm going to visit my daughter or my son, or I'm going to visit a friend, and where am I going to park? That type of thing could happen.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and unfortunately, folks who live, closer to the beach, you end up in a tougher spot because those are sticker areas.
That's
right?
right. It's right,
It's
exactly.
gonna be it's gonna be challenging. It's definitely gonna be challenging, but
Okay,
well,
I don't want
you know,
to go on, but I'm sure Santec will figure it out. And the police chief will, and Zach and yourself.
yep,
There are a lot of conflicts.
yeah. The other nice thing about this study is going to be the sidewalk audit. So they're going to be looking at sidewalk ramps, sidewalk conditions, ADA compatibility, all that stuff. So we'll hopefully have a nice, 5-year capital plan for sidewalks after this is done.
When they're going through that sidewalk audit too, Tony, if they could highlight, areas where there's vegetation issues, it'd be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, he had a email of concern about that just the other day, Tony, right? So just to remind people, make sure your hedges and bushes don't encroach on the sidewalks. For those that are listening, it's important to keep those free. It's your responsibility to keep your hedges and bushes trimmed back. Article 38 was the banning of non-compostable shopping bags. That's a bylaw. So I guess that was approved today. Do we know how long Nahant vendors have to comply with this bylaw change? Do you know that, Dan?
March 30th, 2022.
Okay, thanks. Nice to sink down. Article 39, Lowlands drainage. This is appropriating $100,000 in funds to work on the drainage issue of the Lowlands area. I know, Tony, you and Zach and I toured the area with engineer not long ago, so wheels are in motion there, but
Yeah.
still to be done, but
We're the priority of the funds is to be expended on a stormwater engineer to perform a feasibility study of reopening the outfall pipe on Castle Road. What it's going to cost, is it feasible to get that permitted? What would it cost for construction? What would the timeline be? What value does that provide to stormwater issues in the area? And so we've met with Amy Rutledge, the stormwater engineer, on site. Josh, myself, Zach. We walked, from Castle Road through the Heritage Trail, Flash Road, Culvert. We went to Bear Pond. We showed her essentially the entire system and what the challenges are. And so she's putting together a scope. We haven't received it yet. That was just a few weeks back. As soon as we get that as soon as we get that back, we'll be moving forward and see where it comes up with. I don't think that we're going to have, any sort of capital plan or, anything that would like lead towards another article for the upcoming town meeting. But we are doing other things simultaneously regarding stormwater issues, such as applying for BRIC, $1.2 million grant through the BRIC program for the Short Beach Dune project. We applied for a stormwater hydrology study for the Lowlands area through the BRIC program. We've met with mosquito control and we'll continue to do dredge, vegetation removal in the ditches this winter. And then of course, Zach has put in place a number and continues to maintain a number of those emergency, dewatering basins, plus his standard operating procedure plan as far as how to respond to emergencies. So a lot of work going into it. And we look forward to seeing what Amy has to say for a scope.
Sounds good. Article 40 was a citizens petition, also about the lowlands drainage, and with agreement from the petitioner, we offered Article 39 as a replacement for that, which was accepted. So Article 40 was sort of abandoned, and we don't need to review that. Article 41 was a citizens petition to repeal the wetlands protection bylaw, the local wetlands protection bylaw that did not pass. So nothing to review there. Article 42, citizens petition keeping animals bylaw. I assume that this has also been approved by the AG. And I know there's some timeline sort of grandfathering in animals that are in place. I don't remember what that is. Do you have that, Dan?
I don't recall at the moment. It was the idea that you can maintain, but you can't replace, something like that.
Yeah, but in any event, the bylaws in place now.
Right.
And Article 43 is to continue town committees, no reviews required there, and I think that's it. So thanks for taking the time to go through that. I think it's an important exercise to, make sure nothing falls through the cracks and keep our feet to the fire here. So it's good.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for coming up with this and putting it on the agenda over the last several months. I think it is very useful. So good idea.
Yeah, so we'll have to continue this on an annual basis, I think. All right, next item under new business is the R Nav Study update. I know there was a meeting. I was not able to make that, but we're eager to hear what the outcome was. I know there was a motion planned. So
myself, Dan, I know Mark, I think was on too. The CAC representative for Swampscott, we all spoke in opposition to the RNAV proposed change to runway 22L. And we worked, luckily because of all the support that we received from the town and signatures on that letter, and the communication with members of the CAC and Massport ahead of this meeting, and the chairman of the CAC, Dave Carlin, we were able to get a alternative motion proposed. The original motion was to essentially approve the proposed change in the flight path and move it to the next step of study and send it to the FAA for review and approval. We were able to alter that motion and essentially kind of pump the brakes on moving that to the next step and do a 1-year study of the proposal real time with baseline and changed data collection as far as sound, noise, air pollution, other negative impacts that could potentially be caused by this proposal. And so that passed, which was, it's a victory, I believe, for us. It's not the victory of just, killing the proposal, but it's, I think, a victory for us because there was a lot of pressure to move the proposal to the next step. And because of the work that we did, because of the support from the town, and working with the town of Swampscott, we were able to kind of pump the brakes. They're going to do a 1-year study. And part of that study is to look at limiting the proposal of the new path to certain times of the year, certain times of the week, different elements like that. So we're going to stay on them. We're going to work with the town of Swampscott to potentially acquire or rent our own data collecting devices so that we can compare those to that of the Massport and Mass CAC's data. And we're gonna, stay involved. So a little victory for us.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. I did join that meeting, and I think the outcome was a positive for us. Without the alternative that you pushed, I'm sure that committee would have voted to recommend the changes that they were proposing. And with this alternative, as you say, it will pump the brakes a little. Otherwise, we would have had no chance. And so you did a great job on that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's really good. Thanks a lot, Tony. I think obviously important issue for Nahant. I think obviously smart to partner with Swampscott on this effort, so we're not just fighting each other. And I think it's also smart to have the study and see how things change over the course of the year. So not a total victory, but definitely a step in the right direction. And thanks for all the effort that you and others have put in on this. So, thanks, Mark.
And Dan, thank you for all the work that you've put in on this too. I know we take your advice, your expertise in this area to heart. So thanks for your help on it.
It was fun one. It was a lot of fun dealing with all this stuff. So, but it's not over yet. It's not over yet. It still goes back for the Massport board, which doesn't meet until probably January. So the fight still goes on, as Tony mentioned.
All right. Next item on the agenda is preserving East Point. Right now, there's a Conservation Commission meeting going on. I think, I know Northeastern planned to submit a revised plan, an attempt to be at least more in compliance with the local wetlands bylaw. So that's happening right now. And I didn't have anything else to report on the conservation preservation of East Point. I don't know if you have anything, Mark.
No, I just mentioned during our last meeting that it might be useful to have our attorneys come in at some point to give everybody an update where we're at with all of the different lawsuits and appeals and all of these types of things. It can get kind of confusing and complicated. So rather than me trying to muddle my way through it, I think at some point, Tony, we could get our attorneys together at one of these meetings to sort of walk us through where we're at.
That's a really good idea. And I'm looking at the calendar. I know there's some kind of event on January 19th, some kind of court event.
Yeah.
Which actually is the same date as our second meeting in January, I think. So let's tentatively plan for an update from the attorneys on January 19th. Okay, town administrators report.
Okay. Sewer main project update. If you have driven down the Linway or the road by the Rotary, you've probably seen the bypass pipe starting to be assembled. A lot of that work has been completed. It's not quite finished yet, but the plan is to have the bypass turned on by the end of the month. We meet every 2 weeks with our engineer and contractor, and we've been receiving nothing but positive reports on progress, and we're moving right along with the sewer main project. Again, hopefully that job is scheduled to be completed, substantially completed by May of 2022.
They must be doing a lot of work at night, because I see a lot of crossings across the Linway in those areas. So it looks good. Hey, maybe we just leave the bypass in place and forget about the rest of the project. I'm only joking.
Well, I've already gotten a call. I've already gotten a call from the mayor's office in Lynn saying, we're getting a lot of calls. What's going on? What's the update here? I don't think our neighbors would be too happy if we left that up for too long. But the project's going really well. Sewer, we've also submitted our II capital plan according to the DEP administrative consent order. We're waiting. They are reviewing it. We'll be having a follow-up call with them. There's a lot of work still to be done, even with the sewer main project underway. There's still a lot of work to do with II, with our pump stations, with our Willow Road main. I'm guessing sewer will be a topic of discussion once again at this upcoming town meeting. So we're looking at it and trying to figure out what our next step and plan is going to be on that. But we are making progress in the right direction.
Tony, I don't want to jinx anything here, but I'm wondering, and I've looked at some parts of the contract. Is there a provision in the contract for the contractor to have an emergency response in place should the bypass fail at any point in time?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was also a requirement of DEP's. So they had to put that together. It's been submitted to DEP and it's been approved.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just an aside, but it feels so good to see these things start to happen. So I don't know, it just feels good. See all the talk turn into action and new pipes, and looking forward to continuing the infrastructure improvement. For now.
Tony and Zach.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's true. And the voters for authorizing the funds.
Yeah. And we are, luckily for us, we're taking advantage of a program offered through the state that provides us a low interest, long-term loan. So, we're accomplishing this goal in a financially sound way too. So that's a good part of it. The next part is budget season prep. So we are on, we're just about to get started on the 5-month marathon of, preparing for annual town meeting. We have sent out our operating budget worksheets to department heads to fill out and return to Allison and I by next week. And then we will be meeting with our department heads right after the new year to finalize their budgets, put together a full first draft to then review with you. And last night I was on a meeting with the finance committee. They will be meeting every other Wednesday opposite of our Wednesday meetings from now, at least those days from now until May. So we had a great first, kickoff meeting last night, getting the FinCom, kind of geared up and ready to go. And we are working to, we're just starting that preparation now.
Tony, I know it's not your responsibility, but is the finance committee fully staffed? All the board members on?
They have 2 vacant seats. However, it may be only 1 vacant seat. I know Jeff Lewis, who formerly of the committee, he's been working. That's part of my next update here. We've been working with Jeff a lot, Allison and I, over the last few months regarding debt shift analysis and our fee schedule analysis. And he may have been bitten by the bug again, and might be returning to the FinCom. So there's 2 open seats right now, and I'm meeting with the moderator tomorrow to review the appointments that he has outstanding. So
Great.
So as I mentioned, the fee schedule review. So the fee schedule is all fees that the town imposes, gets approved by the Board of Selectmen every June for the next fiscal year starting July 1. We have not increased fees since I've been the town administrator. So for the last 3 years, we haven't increased any fees other than, water, sewer, like utility fees, and trash. But outside of that, we haven't increased any fees. So it's certainly time that we take a closer look at that, how we compare to our neighboring communities. That is, there's 1,000 data points when it comes to the fee schedule and what other communities do, how they do it differently, what they're charging. So Jeff Lewis, myself and Allison have been working on that. We have, about 40 fee schedules or fee schedules from about 40 other communities. We're comparing that to what we have in place. And our goal is to pick, a portion of that fee schedule and propose recommended changes to the Board of Selectmen in January or February for the public to, at a public meeting so that the public's aware and that we are, continuing to speak publicly about it to potentially have those changes go in place for July. Right now we are focused on, we're looking primarily at the building permit fees. So our next step is we're going to meet with the 3 inspectors and then branch out to some local contractors. And of course, discuss it in this forum publicly too. And I already gave the short-term rental committee update. So that's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Mark, did you have any other questions for Tony?
No, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right. With that, we'll move on to Citizens Forum. Do we have anyone on the line that would like to unmute themselves and ask any questions or pose a question in the chat? Looks pretty quiet. Nothing in the chat, Tony?
Joe had a couple questions. Joe, do you want to speak on those comments in the chat?
Yeah, Joseph Mellon, 162 Willow Road. Given the time I spent at the WAF if the end opening of the gangway is not blocked in some way, somebody will try to use it when it's raised.
Yeah, I know, well, I'm part of the Dory Club, and we, prior to this meeting, we discussed the plan there, and we'll certainly include a gate in the design. I'm speaking because it looks like Eric and Sandy have dropped off, but I'll speak to the Dory Club here. Will that be, stop a fully determined person? Probably not. But there'll be an effort to gate it off within reasonable limits, and also something that's not so aesthetically unpleasing either. No razor wire, 8-foot tall fence, but it'll be a reasonable attempt to keep it from doing something stupid.
The razor wire sounds good. No, Tony, the other message in the chat is for you.
Okay, I got it. That's it. That's all that I have in the chat. If anybody else on the call, as the chairman announced, wants to make a comment, question, just unmute, announce your name and address.
All right, so if we don't have anything else, we're gonna adjourn into executive session. Mark, do you wanna read that motion?
Yeah, I move the Board of Selectmen adjourn to executive session with the planning board pursuant to general law, chapter 30A, section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, Northeastern University Marine Science Center, 430 Nahant Road, Nahant versus Nahant Planning Board. If the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body.
Seconded, and I do declare that an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Thank you all on the Zoom call, and
Josh,
oh, yeah.
you can let the public know that we will not be re-entering public
Oh, yes,
meetings.
yeah.
after
So
this.
we will not be re-entering public session. So thank you all for listening, and we'll retire into executive session now.
The planning board needs to do the same thing, and we will go into a public session very briefly right now. Public is welcome to stay for that. So we will convene now according to our announcement. I'll call the roll. Cal, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Sheila?
I'm here. Yes.
Pat?
Here.
Rob?
Here.
Shannon?
Here.
Steve? No. I am here. Alternate members, John?
Yes.
Kristen? You're muted.
Yes.
Okay, we are convened in public session at 8:24 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn to executive session with the Board of Selectmen pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30, Cap A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, Northeastern University Marine Science Center, 430 Nahant Road, Nahant versus Nahant Planning Board, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body?
Dan, so
Yes.
moved.
Okay, motion by Sheila. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Cal. As chairman, I do so declare. Is there any further discussion? Let us vote. Cal?
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Went out of order for a moment. Pat?
Yes.
Steve? Shannon. Okay,
Yes.
we have six yeses, one abstention. We are adjourned to executive session.
And will you enter,
8:25 p.m.
will you re-enter public session, Dan?
Excuse me?
Or are you going to re-enter a public
We are
meeting?
not
after-
going to return to public session.
Okay, bear with me for a second while I set you guys up.
So, guess we'll have to ask Mary and Emily to depart,
And Elizabeth.
and Elizabeth.
I also have